Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. Welcome aboard, Yvette Avery Herod at Merck. Let's see, afternoon. I am at the federal employment benefit cuts here in Georgia. Please, please, please. I think it's time for you to have another interview here on Politics Done Right. Get some videos, please, Miss Herod, and I will cut that into any interview that we can do so that we can help push this stuff forward. It is time for employees to make the right kind of money. Now, everybody talks about, the reason why people are not going to work is because Biden is giving them that $300 a week. You know what? I am going to tell the truth. I think there's a portion of that $300 a week statement that is true. People do the logical thing what businesses do. I can get $3 from the government, or I can go work for $7.25, or I can go work, have to pay somebody to take care of my kids and get a menial salary, work my butt off for no profit. Then I'll take it from the stipend. You bet your life I do. That is the decision every corporation makes every single day. Why not afford that to employees as well? Remember, it is utterly important that we understand the wealthy is completely dependent on the workers. The workers are the ones who provide the wealth to the wealthy. The wealth of the wealthy is your excess labor. The fact that we have not been taught that in school is the reason why many sit down. Even some of the people that don't have a pot to do you know what in, are there defending the wealthy as if they have earned it. The people that are sweeping the floors and cutting the grass and cleaning the garbages, those are the workers, the teachers, the candlestick maker, the baker, the lawyer, the doctor, the engineer. They are the ones that provide the services to this country. And to think that they're going to complain and say, stop giving those menial folks any money because we can't get to hire them at slave labor rate wage. Remember what I said? We are currently in the capitalist system is an antiseptic form of labor that is afforded that through our government. Yvette Avery Herod, when you're ready for an interview, drop me a line because I love what you do. Keep empowering people, please. Okay, let's go. I got a long. I'm playing my I'm playing the speech that I gave for the keynote, so what I want to do is I want to go through this real quickly. Giuliani suspended for practicing law in New York over bogus election fraud. That's a long piece that you wrote, Michael. Thank you for doing that. People can read it on their own. Michael Rudden also said at least one dead after a 12-story building. But my brother, there are 91 people that are missing. Thank you for bringing that to our attention as well. Michael Rudden and also John McAfee, software pioneer turned fugitive, died in a prison. I think it was in Barcelona that he died. Yes, they said he hung himself. Michael Rudden, we're not going away. Nonviolent protest over voter rights ends with arrest in D.C. We're saying across the country it's time for people to march on these Senate offices. Thank you. You're absolutely right, declared Reverend Barber. I need to get Reverend Barber on the show. What do you think happens when nonviolent protesters are arrested? They lose their reason to remain nonviolent. Do right by the needs of the people or lose consent of the governed. Amen. Another one from Redden. Starving off GOP attacks Democrats show new urgency on crime. Crime rates are lower now than they were in the 80s and 90s. Crime rates are also a distraction from infrastructure investment. Exactly right. The crime rate has gone up relatively. Relatively, it's gone up, but we know what causes crime. It's not giving more money to police to slow it down. It's putting more money into humanity that reduces the necessity for crime. A person watching their baby starve is going to do whatever it takes to feed that baby. But also a baby who has grown up in a system where mommy and daddy had to work their butts off and didn't have the proper supervision. What do you think happened to that baby? That baby loses its way and it becomes a person who commits crimes. Come on, folks. This is not rocket science. You can finish reading that on your own. Michael Rudman also says, states across the country are dropping barriers to voting, widening a stark geographic divide in ballot access. The problem is it's different between blue states and red states. Red states are trying to suppress the votes. Blue states are actually doing what's good. Open the vote for people to vote. And more intelligent people. Michael Rudman, how much stuff do you have here, brother? Climate change tipping points are upon U.S. draft UN report warns. The worst is yet to come. Our civilization has put off addressing global warming for so long that it's going to be... Look, we are going to have to mitigate living with this change until... Well, that's another subject. Biden endorses Senate bipartisan infrastructure agreement, but his thumbs up won't ensure the potential agreement. Details of which remain unreleased can get through Congress. Democrats are... Look, but let me stop there. You can read that on your own too, but here's what the deal is. The deal is they just want to show bipartisanship, so they're going to pass this bipartisan bill. The magic is what comes in reconciliation. Okay, that's the magic. What comes in reconciliation? That is what's going to determine if AOC, Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib and Ayanna Pressley will go for it and bring the progressive base with them. That's what's going to determine that. So they have to be done in tandem, as Nancy Pelosi said today. What we have to do as progressives is make sure and push on the moderates like Nancy Pelosi and Biden and all of them. We got to push. Let's see. Greetings, Dimitri OG, Daniel Ledo, Julie Van Asdel. Welcome aboard, you guys. Love to see you here. Deborah John from LA. Welcome aboard. Bridge MCP. Hola a todos. Eric Hayes says, Egberto, we will participate in a system, rich or poor, that is called an economic policy. That is not called an economic policy at all. Having a rich and a poor, if you have an economic system that depends on having rich and poor, you ain't got an economic system. You got a model of slavery. On vacation this week, so let me know. All Mondays are good. Any Monday you want to come on, Yvette, you just drop me a line. You have all my information because you know I want to hear from you, girl. Eric Hayes, gosh, give some other time to people. Let's see, Courtney, leave Michael Rudnin alone. Michael is one of our dedicated persons who bring a lot of information. Thank you so kindly. And Eric, if you want to provide information, there's nothing stopping you from giving us information as well, sir. Thank you very much. Courtney, the SLP. Egberto is spitting facts. Thank you so kindly. Courtney, Eric Hayes. Not all people do the parentheses thing, sorry, and end up bad. I'm not saying that all. That you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Courtney, SLP, Bridge MCP, happy Hydrate Day. Egberto, you have it exactly right. Over the past 6 years, more spending on police hasn't necessarily meant crime. Thank you, my brother. Okay, Courtney SLP, Dimitri OG, that's from Dimitri. Eric Hayes, Egberto, I'm really sweating now as it's summer and hot outside. Imagine that it is expected. Yes, it is expected. Eric Hayes, Nancy. Okay, folks, real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to first do look, to all my right-wing listeners, my brothers, you know I love you too. I love you all. To my right-wing brothers, my conservative brothers, I have a message from a conservative to you, Matthew Dowd. Are you a Trump sympathizer? Are you a sympathizer of many Republican politicians? Do you have relatives who are sympathizers of the current crop of Republican politicians? Well, I have a message for you. No, I don't have a message for you. Somebody that you would likely listen to more so than I, because at once he was of that ilk. Matthew Dowd, political strategist and the founder of a new organization that's trying to really firm up. Folks, listen to what he has to say, then we'll take it on the other side.
I think fundamentally what this is about is the president and the Republican leaders have no respect for their own voters. Think about this. They are willing to say, oh, those are just rubes over there. We can tell them anything and they're going to believe it. They have no respect for their voters. It's a used car salesman with a dancing bear and somebody in a clown outfit and selling people cars that are going to break down and need brake jobs and could be dangerous to people. The fundamental thing here is, and I say this to Republicans out there who support Republicans today and people that support Donald Trump, they are willing to lie and drum up these things because they don't think you matter. That's fundamentally what it is. They don't think you matter, and they're going to treat you like that. That's the problem.
Now, listen to what they've done to you. They've given you all kind of conspiracy theories. And you know what? Most of you deep in your hearts know it's not true. They've given you reasons why an insurrection supposedly didn't really occur. Most of you deep in your mind know the truth. They've lied to you about, oh, our economic system works for you. And I'm not talking about working for us progressives, but they've told you that somehow life is going to be better for you if you vote for them. You know it's not true. You know it's not true, but you have allowed them. You have allowed them to reach that part of your brain that is so easily convincible that somehow there is they first convince you to differentiate yourself from those others, and that somehow hurting yourself is worth it, just not to give those others the ability, the equality that's required of us all. But you know what? You know who gets hurt? Not the Republicans you're voting for. Not the others that you think you're hurting. The ones who get hurt the most is you. You're the ones who are going through a wormhole that will ultimately be your demise. And you know what? Many of us do care. I do care. That's why we do what we do. Being a progressive means the support of all those who really want to move forward, who really want progress. Absolutely so, my friends. Absolutely so. Anyhow, let's see. Eric, how about quit vilifying the cops? Please show me where I have vilified the cops. There are many cops that need to be vilified. Those cops that are quitting because somebody got convicted, one of their peers got convicted for beating the crap out of somebody. I say, c'est la vie, so long, bye-bye. Anybody who says, oh, we can't get any cops anymore because the cops are under attack. Anybody who wants to be a cop who thinks they don't want to be because what's happening, that means they were a criminal anyway. That means they wanted to get on the police force to show their power over other people. The cops work for us. I love good cops. I love good fire people. I love good folks that are doing things. I love good cops that are going to really knock the heads of those bad people. But I abhor the cops that are killing people because of the color of their skins. I abhor the cops that are killing people who are allies of the people because of their hue. No, there are a hell of a lot of bad cops out there. And there are a whole lot of half good cops that are bad cops because they won't turn in the bad cops. I am not going to kowtow to cops because their cops support the blue. Look at what on January 6th, even those people that been singing glory, glory, hallelujah, we love the cops. Look at what they did to the cops. I love good cops. And Mike Cisak, you're absolutely wrong. There are a hell of a lot of bad cops. There are good cops. My cousin was a very good cop. My cousin was a very good detective in New York. And he himself will tell you how many damn bad cops there are. So please don't dismiss my intelligence or the intelligence of all the people listening here or all the people that have gone through the system. Please, we know what it feels like. Anyhow, I'm running out of time, so I got to go ahead and give my speech to the AEU.
Good evening. I'm Randy Best, and I'm the leader of the Northern Virginia Ethical Society and a member of the AAU Assembly Committee, and it's great to be here this evening. Egberto Willies is a political activist, author, political blogger, and radio show host. Egberto left the software company he founded to pursue political activism. He launched the radio media program, Politics Done Right, with the goal of discussing political flashpoints from a progressive point of view. Originally from Panama, Egberto left to attend college in a small Texas town. He initially experienced America as an outsider. This vantage point allowed him to see America with fresh eyes. American habits and institutions were once new to him. Nowadays, not so much. Upon transferring to UT Austin, Egberto told of his experience in his book, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Friends and Neighbors. He wrote, both students and professors in many instances went out of their way to remind me that I was an other. Egberto encountered American racism and how expectations are based on the color of your skin. When encountering differences of opinion with others, Egberto made a conscious choice to lean in. He included this passage in his book, It's Worth It. How one ultimately resolves their interactions with others is generally predicated by past experiences. Some either decide to always stay in a place of comfort, others explore. I explore. Exploring human connection across differences is a lifelong enterprise for Egberto. Through involvement with the Coffee Party and insightful commentary on his program, Politics Done Right, Egberto listens deeply to others, articulates his progressive values, and plants the seeds of change. Please join me in welcoming the keynote speaker for the 106th American Ethical Union's Annual Assembly, Egberto Willies, whose topic is Empowering Us All Makes Our Demands Undeniable and Attainable.
First of all, I want to thank you. I want to thank your organization, American Ethical Union, for having me. It was after learning about you and after reading about what you represented, I have to say that I was more than elated, because it was like finding a group of folk who really thought, I don't want to say the same way that I thought, but actually had those values of had those human values that was willing to engage, which is all that I stand for. So first of all, I want to thank you, first of all, for the things that you said about me, but I want to talk a little bit more about myself, because I think it is important for one to understand who you are, to understand why you feel the way you do, why you say the things that you do, why you act the way that you do. I grew up in the small country of Panama. Panama is an isthmus. It has several parts as well. It has several different kinds of cultures within that community itself. My forefathers came from Jamaica and other Caribbean islands to build the canal in Panama. Most of those Caribbean folks, the black folks in Panama, there are two kinds of black folks in Panama: the costeños, which are the ones that were under the Spanish rule, and then there were the Caribbean ones that came from the islands. I am from the Caribbean ones that came to the island. As we assimilated, we all became Afro-Latinos. In other words, we were black folk who spoke Spanish. Some of us decided that we wanted to take those good jobs that the Americans offered. It was below what Americans gave. Below what Americans earned in Panama, because they got something called a differential, but it was way above what you would make in Panama. So some of us became a bit special as we got those special jobs with the United States. And with that came a whole lot of privileges for Panamanians in Panama over Panamanians. So that is kind of where you start to learn a few things. I went to school in both Spanish and English. Our classes were actually really bilingual. I learned chemistry in Spanish. I learned civics in Spanish. I learned physics in English. So that is the kind of schooling that we went, and that's the reason why I speak English like an American, well, like a Caribbean person, and Spanish like somebody from Colon. That's a part of Panama where I'm from. Now, when those of us who live in Panama, we looked at the United States as that bastion of democracy because that is what the United States sells. If you go any part of the world, what the United States sell is the bastion of democracy, and we believe it, and we all came here the best way we could. Though, especially those of us that grew up, in those both worlds, we came here and we expected democracy. And, for the most part, I would say when I just got here, we found it. When I came, though, it was interesting because I I came to the States walking with, and we were in Brenham, Texas, a very small town. And I'm walking with my other friends from Central and South America. And as you know, like I said, in this part of the world, we're pretty mixed up, all that good stuff. And then we're walking down the street and we had an Argentinian girl, white, blue-eyed girl, another sort of Indian looking, and all of us walking down. And the first thing I heard walking down Brenham is something to the effect of, "Hey nigger, you're in the wrong part of town." And that was that was likely the first week. I knew what it meant, but my friends didn't. And so we went back to school, but that was the sort of introduction that I got. Did that have an effect on me? uh, I grew up pretty headstrong based on the parents that I had. I had parents that ensured that things that people said to you didn't have much effect. And in as much as something may have burned for a while, it was not long lasting. So I came here and I understood that. At Blinn, I had no problems. At the college, I still believed in what America represented. Every place has its problem. Every country has its problem. I don't care where you're at. Um, when After being in Brenham for a year, I decided to give up that music scholarship that I was on. I actually came to the United States on a music scholarship. That was how I was able to pay. So I was on a music scholarship doing engineering at Blinn College. Kind of different. But I then migrated after the first year to the University of Texas. And immediately I was always an activist, even back in Panama. It's like, why are we allowing this to happen, etc. And I went to the University of Texas. And at the University of Texas, I joined the South African Liberation Action Committee. And that the pretense behind that is that we wanted to ensure that that the University of Texas would not be investing in apartheid South Africa with the billions of dollars that we commanded with that university. So we marched on campus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And at that point, I was in a church called Maranatha Christian Center. I never forgot it. As an activist, I then I played the guitar for the church, and we had fun in the church, and we were all God-loving people, all that good stuff, Bible thumping, reading. And I went to the pastor and I said, "Hey, we are marching on campus to get the University of Texas to divest from South Africa." And the pastor said, "We don't do that." And I said, "Why not? Come on now. Jesus was a radical man. He would have, this man walked on water and he did all these kind of stuff. He would have done that." And this guy said, "No, we don't do that." And he said, "By the way, Egberto, do you know that Jesus never spoke out against slavery?" And I said, "Oh, really? I didn't quite remember that. I was a Christian back home, and we never really talk about stuff like that." But he forced me to read the whole darn New Testament, and I did. And by God, the guy was right. And that's when I became a humanist. That's when I gave up on religion, and that's when still, that's when I gave up on religion. Anyhow, At that point, I still went on with my activism, got my degree in college, and then I started to work for different organizations. Both I started at the oil companies, and I went to work for NASA and a few other places that I worked for. And at that time, I was still doing a lot of blogging as an activist. In those days, it wasn't called blogging. Some of you may be too young to remember things like CompuServe and these other things where you could write these different things politically. That's where engaged. Even AOL was a little bit before that time. So that's what I did. And as time progressed, and the first time blogging started, the first time there was a website. When the guy from where is it Holland or whatever designed hypertext, I was out there with my website politically under a pseudonym because I worked for corporate America. So I always knew how to work within a system to try to get some of your money, your point across. Um, After leaving NASA, I formed a software company, and I formed a software company because it was just time, and I worked it for a long time, and I also continued blogging and doing all these things on the side, but anonymously until my daughter got out of high school. When my daughter left high school, it was open season, meaning I didn't have to hide anymore. So when I didn't have to hide, I started a program called Liberal Politics Done Right. Well, after joining the Coffee Party, which is really we call it a transpartisan organization because we wanted to reach everybody. And I must say that the Coffee Party was instrumental. The Coffee Party was instrumental in in mellowing me out into a manner that said we should be engaging with everybody, no matter what you think of that person. So I will engage with an anarchist. I will engage with a KKK person, which I have. I would engage with militia folk. I will engage with anybody civilly and try to have a conversation to move what we believe in forward. Um, so after I started that internet radio show called Liberal Politics Done Right. After I joined the Coffee Party, I changed it to just Politics Done Right. And the reason why is to ensure that I didn't alienate any particular person who's scanning something. And believe it or not, it was also supposed to be a bit tricky, right? Politics done right. Do I mean on the right side of the spectrum or politics done correctly? Nobody really knows. So I get a lot of people that kind of test and try to show anyway. And so we did that. After doing that for some time, I made a proposal to KPFT 90.1 FM Houston, Pacifica Network. I think many of you may know of the Pacifica Network set of stations around the country. And they picked it up and liked the concept, so I've been doing it at KPFT since then. During the healthcare debate, though, that is when, and the title of what I want to talk about today is empowering us all to make our demands undeniable and attainable. And the reason I said that is too often what we think is that we are one person and that we can't make a difference. And my goal in life after I gave up my software companies and gave up corporate America and everything else. And by the way, I am not telling anybody that working for corporate America or anything like that is wrong, but I'm just saying what I did. I decided that I would really fully engage. So during the healthcare debate, I remember getting very upset. We weren't really addressing issues as we should. And I felt impotent, completely impotent, like many people feel when you go talking about politics to folks. Very, very impotent. So I sat down in a Starbucks and in 2 months came out with my first book called As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. Of course, I got into a bit of trouble with the Coffee Party because they thought the name of the book was a bit too maybe racy, but they when reading the book, it wasn't at all a war. It was really these are how things are, and that we're really in a class war. So I came out with that book because I wanted to show how all of those things integrated themselves. I Again, the reason I start talking about the biography at first, or a little bit about myself as first, is you can see the migration. You can see exactly where I'm coming from. The first piece now that I wrote for Coffee Party USA was a piece called Americans Held Hostage. And the reason I wrote that is I feel, and I think we all live, however we try to take it, in effect, we're all hostages, right? We are pinned down to doing certain things a certain way. We have been indoctrinated to believe that things must operate the way they operate right now. We must believe that you get up at 8 in the mornings or whatever time you get up and you go to work, you do something for somebody else and you come home. And that's how the majority of us live our lives, because that's just how we were programmed. I told a group on a program once that we are all, at first in America, what we had was slavery, but our economic system taught a much better lesson. And that lesson was, why put people in chains when we can have virtual chains by controlling their minds? And if I have control of your mind, I don't really need chains, because I can do as I please. And that is where, since I came to the United States in 1979, and in as much as we have been indoctrinated for some time into the belief that we were exceptional, we were indoctrinated into believing that everything that we did was the correct way to do it. It was okay because we were all surviving. We were all surviving. But the thing about the type of economic system that we have is the corrosive nature of it means that eventually we start to eat our own. And when we start to eat our own, we have to start finding a boogeyman. And that boogeyman, as we approach that, on Stable's part of where this economic system takes us, we get the person who starts to define the boogeyman. Everybody thinks that Donald Trump was some sort of a anomaly. Everybody thinks, oh, where did he come from? What is he showing some scars, or what is he really doing? Yes, he's showing some scars, but the scars are not within the American people. I just left DC with my daughter who had a stroke. And we were talking about people, and she likes to be independent, and she doesn't like to ask for a lot of help. And I said, you have to ask for help, and you have to ask people to do things and help out, because we are a community. And I said, most people are good. And she said, Dad, that's not really true. And I'm like, yeah. I went out during the Tea Party days to a rinky-dinky bar in the west part of Houston, where there are some crazy looking, supposedly rednecks. And by the time we were done, I didn't say that we cured whatever isms they had, but we were able to connect on a human basis. And what we find is, what changes us are those externalities that forces us to use the parts of our brains we should have outgrown long time ago. That animal part of our brain that isn't the logical thinking part of our brain, that have us believing that somehow race means something, as if there is really a race. Now, I've had to work within the race domain for some time, but I've never copped to race. In other words, I don't believe in the social construct. Well, I know it's a social construct. I don't believe in the biological construct, because the biological construct is false. The biological construct was created by an economic system that needs it. And in the piece, as I prepared for what I was going to talk about today, I had a little phrase. And I'm always cognizant to the people that are listening to me, because I don't like too often for words to cloud what we're really trying to say. But in this case, I'm going to make an exception where I say racism is an antidote to racism as antidote to capitalism's failure. And what do I mean by that? We know that our economic system, from a mathematical standpoint, is unsustainable. You can't have infinite growth. You can't have all these things that we claim. If you listen to CNBC, you're listening to a whole bunch of crap. You're listening to legalized gambling, where the mathematicians who created things like derivatives and created things like credit default swaps never knew what they were talking about. They used mathematical formulas based on something that mathematical formulas didn't apply to, but they did. And in the process of doing that, they accelerated a failure that was bound to happen irrespective. So we got failure. And our failure was really not easily recoverable. Obama supposedly bring this, we got out of that semi-failure, but we never really did. Dr. Richard Wolff, the economist, a well-known economist, came out and said it was easy what they did, right? They inflated our system. They gave infinite credit, and they gave you the semblance of prosperity or the semblance of a recovery. And in the process of doing that, what did they do? They created a system that was ready for a bigger demise. And henceforth comes Donald Trump understanding what we're not him understanding, but the people that's backing him understanding where we were going. And where is it that we were going? We had to find a boogeyman. And when he came down those stairs and he said Mexicans were rapists, killers, and everything else, he knew what he was doing. When he started to create this racial angst in this country, he knew what he was doing. What he was doing is ensuring that people would keep their eyes off of the ball. If you are looking at the other as the reason why 80% of the people in this country cannot have if they have $1,000 bill, they're finished. If you want to make sure that they don't come for the real boogeyman, create one. So those dark people are your problem. They want everything for free. Those people that come in over the border, they're going to take your jobs. Those other folks, they're going to burn your stuff down. So if you look at right-wing radio stations and television stations right now, what you find is a system that is completely anathema to what's reality. So that was a necessary thing for what I always talk about, our plutocracy to create. We were led to believe that the wealthy were special people. And when I talk about wealthy, I know we probably have a few millionaires on the show right now, on the program right now. And for the millionaires on here, I'm not talking about you. That is not you at all. For the guy who owns a place with 100 employees, I'm not talking about you. For the person who owns a bakery, a donut shop, who owns a grocery store, I'm not talking about you. But the plutocracy, the Trumps, and these guys want you to believe that when we're talking about equity, that we're somehow talking about taking away what you have earned. But you have earned it. But the real wealth in this country are things that we don't know how to describe and we don't really see. And those are the folks that I consider the parasites of our society, and the ones that we have to take back what they have given or what they had taken on the backs of everybody else. Are you an engineer? Are you a teacher? Are you a doctor? Are you a lawyer? Your services are invaluable. Are you a garbage collector? Do you sweep the floors? Do you clean up the mess at daycares, your value to society is immeasurable. But that is not, those are not the people who are the real wealthy, who are the ones who control this country. Those are not the ones who are getting the spoils of this country. You know, many of us look at Bill Gates and we love Bill Gates because he's given all his money away. And we love Jeff Bezos because Jeff Bezos, I mean, he is great. He amassed 160 something or $200 billion. Whose money is that? Whose money is that? Where did that money come? Was Jeff Bezos so intelligent that he was deserving of $200 billion? Or is that a piece of the action of the several 100,000 people who work for Jeff Bezos not being paid? Bill Gates bought MS-DOS as CPM and some other permutations thereof from a Seattle company for $50,000. He had capital. He had something to work with. He picked that up and he was smart. He didn't sell the software to IBM. He licensed it. So he got a piece of IBM's action. You know, it's a different economic system that doesn't value work, worth, or service. It values capital. How can you use what you've got to make more on the backs of others? Oprah Winfrey, they love Oprah Winfrey. I used to love, I mean, I don't, look, these guys are playing very well. They are playing the game as it was designed. So you don't hate them, you dislike the game. And how do you change the game? That is what I'm going to talk about, empowering. You know, they are the game. They're playing the game and they play the game well. And you know what? Everybody that's listening right here, if they wanted to, could play that game. They have the wherewithal to play that game. But remember what I said, I told my daughter, most people are good. Most people don't think they need $1 billion to live well. Most people don't think they need $10 million to live well. Most people, after they reach a certain point, they say, okay, I've got enough. Let me go on to the next thing and whatever. But there's a pathology with a very small, you ever wondered why the 0.1% of the people are like that? That's because the 0.1% have a pathological problem. It's hard to say, but it is true. Just look at, ask, if you ever doubt it, ask all the billionaires we know, from musicians to politicians to all these others, how many of them want a tax increase to really have a good redistribution? Oh, but I got the redistribution a bit too early. I'm still with meritocracy. Meritocracy really means that if you are good at what you do, that you will merit from what you're able to do no matter what. And the truth of the matter is, I go to church, or I don't go to church, but in going to church, right? You see all these great singers. You know, they're meritorious of having music contracts, but they're not chosen. You have to be chosen. And that's a dirty little secret of our system, right? Everybody think if you merit, you go to college and you do all the things right, you're going to be just fine. Nobody ever tells you about, you know, we always talk about the NFL, you know, all those kids in all those kids that are playing baseball and in high school and college, or playing football in high school and college. They should pick something else, because, you know, only 1% of you or less are going to make it into the NFL. But they forgot to tell you that about college too, right? They forgot to tell you that about a whole lot of other things, that, you know, you go to college for one thing and you end up doing something else. And I mean, they forget to tell you that you have to be chosen for what you really want to be if you are meritorious of that. You have to be chosen. That's our system. That is our system. So Bill Gates, he had the capital, but he was chosen. Jeff Bezos had the capital, was chosen. His father loaned him $300,000, and he was chosen. There's a little story I tell all the time, right? I'm a software developer, and when it was coming out, things were just starting, And I thought about this stuff about selling products online. And I was going to create this piece, this cart that you click on a button and you sell something. And we started to do patent searches. I didn't know you had to do patent search for software, but apparently you did, because Jeff Bezos, Amazon, owned the one-click patent, which means all of us who had a great idea that was no real great idea at all couldn't use that no great idea because somebody else was using it, which meant I wanted to sell a piece of software for a couple $100 a pop, and I couldn't do it because Bezos owned the license to the thing. So what I'm trying to say, meritorious doesn't really mean success. Oprah Winfrey, several $billion. What about the engineer who built the camera? What about the person who built the microphone? What about the person who built the videotape, the satellites, and all those things that affords her the ability to make billions? You see, we don't think that way, right? We don't think that everybody plays a part in the success of all these others. You know, I remember when I started developing software, and I developed a piece of software for Microsoft that made the serial port do something magic, and I thought it was worth all that. And then I sat back down and I said, you know what, though, but think about on how many people's back. The guy who designed the microprocessor that, yes, I'm programming the microprocessor, but hell, he designed it, and he doesn't even know what I'm doing with it, and making money off of what he did. We have an economic system that doesn't reward those who make things. Every one of you that are listening to me right now, are doing some sort of a job, and somebody else is building something off of what you did, and others off of what somebody else did. And what our economic system teaches is that last person, that person who can capitalize what you did, is the one who gets rich, and all the people who produced everything else. So long, good luck. That's what it's all about. So I want to thank Randy for talking about some of the issues that I spoke about in my book, It's Worth It, because one of the things that I really wanted to say is that our biggest problem is that we don't talk to each other and exchange ideas as we should, and respect each other as we should, so that all these different ideas and ways of thinking will come out, or would come out. If we did, the control that the system, and I always talk about the system, has on us would be that much less effective. But because we all are designed, or we are all placed in our own little silos, and these silos are class-based, race-based, gender-based, and all these other little silos, and folks think that there's some reason why they shouldn't communicate, or some reason why the other one hates the other, they are able to maintain the power over us. So my goal in life is not to do that. It's to say, let's be self-empowering. How do we become self-empowering? We talk to each other. We forget about our own biases. We all have biases. You know, the isms doesn't, look, I always tell people, right? Nobody has a monopoly on evil. Nobody has a monopoly on goodness. Nobody has a monopoly on anything. I don't care who you are, race or otherwise. We have been constructed a certain way from our inception as a country, and we have been living through that indoctrination ever since. And if we ever decide to give it up, which I think we will in the long run, that country that we want to be exceptional would be exceptional. And how do we become exceptional? We pick up things that other people do. The redistribution of wealth. People hate to hear that word, redistribution, as if it means that people haven't earned what they're about to give. No. We talk about childcare. We talk about Medicare for all. We talk about basic income, meaning everybody has a right to have a starting living income. We talk about bifurcated economies, where there are certain parts of our economy that does not belong in the public sector, and certain parts that doesn't belong in the private sector. And right now, it is all a whack. What is healthcare doing in the private sector? Are we somehow ever going to be able to, should we ever want to hurt somebody if they get ill? I don't think so. So ultimately, and I'm coming to my close in stating that I think we can become that exceptional country with empowerment. And empowerment means removing the chains from our minds. Empowerment means removing the indoctrination that have been placed in us since our inception. I mean, it started from us being a country based on capital first. The first thing we ever ask, if you ask about a tax plan, how is that going to affect business? If we ask about a health plan, how is that going to affect business? If we ask about everything, it's how is it going to affect business? We never first ask, how does it affect human beings first? Empowerment means asking that question. How does it affect us all first? And after we've determined that, we create a system in which we come first. And it's not impossible because there are brands of it in many countries, not perfect, but many countries have tried that empowerment. And if we did that, we would first elect the people that would make it a reality and put it through. So with that, thank you so kindly. We spend a lot of time. All right, folks, I hope you like that. That was the keynote speech that I gave to the American Union, or rather the American Ethical Union. I think it was a couple weeks ago. Kind of enjoyed the whole show. They had some musicians out of the UK. A few of the people were in Mexico. They were all over the place. It was pretty darn cool. Anyhow, folks, the next subject that I wanted to talk about, I went ahead and gave you Matthew Dowd already, so I won't play that again. I want to talk about this new bipartisanship. A lot of people are concerned about let's see, the duck that quack says, my interactions with the other side are much like the scene in the Poseidon Adventure with one group, the Trumpsters, want to go to the bow and the other want to go to the stern. Oh my God. Hey, Georgia Fort is on Dixon all the time. Actually, they have a show with Georgia Fort has a show on with Dixon. He has a show that he has, like, what is it? Like It or Not, that he does with look at, I'm going crazy. I'm losing my mind. That she was just on my show. What's wrong with me? Anyhow, he has a show that he does with her. And then he also has a show that he does with Rebecca. Rebecca Azor. He has one show that he does with Rebecca Azor. And then Fox, he's setting up another show with Ford. So that's why you see her there all of the time. They're getting sort of a little network together, and I love them. Now, as far as why, I think I've asked Ford to come on to the show a couple of times, and I hadn't heard back. I heard back from her once, and I haven't heard back from her since. Okay, Bridge, I refuse FB. I use Twitch. E2247 refuses FB, uses Twitch. Okay, I think it's time for me to ask my ask real quick. All right, folks, if you're listening on YouTube, please go ahead and click that join channel to become one of our members. We couldn't do this without you. You can also consider getting one of these mugs that you see on our screen. Guess who designed the mug? Our own Bridge MCP designed the mug and sent it out to me, and we went ahead and got the mug manufactured. So a big thank you to Bridge MCP, and there are some of the people who use the mug. Anybody who has a mug that wants to send me a picture, if you send me a picture of the mug, I will be more than happy to put it out there. If you're not on YouTube, or if you don't see the join button on YouTube, you can still join us by going to politicsandright.com/YouTube, politicsandright.com/YouTube. Alternative, we need you can. Oh, I forgot to put the link for the mug. I'm sorry. Here is the link for the mug. There's the link for the mug. Anyhow, you can also support us by becoming one of our Patreons. Patreon is spelled Patreon. Go to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. We need a whole lot of patrons. We need 1,000 patrons and 1,000 YouTube subscribers. So please either become a YouTube subscriber by clicking the join button or going to the politicsdoneright.com/YouTube, or become a patron by becoming politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Of course, you can always give us a contribution at any time to make sure we can continue putting out the progressive message and making sure the message is heard. politicsdoneright.com/PayPal, politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Support us as well at our store, politicsdoneright.com/store, politicsdoneright.com/store. Likewise, you can go ahead and get all of our books. And by the way, I've already done I completed the audiobook. This time I did it myself for How to Make America Utopia. They're doing the edit, they have to do all the calculations to put it up there on their system. So they're doing that for the book right now. So it should be an audiobook shortly as well. But you can get all our books at politicsdoneright.com/books, politicsdoneright.com/books. By the way, there's one other thing that I wanted to, did I put the store up there already? Yeah. So please support us however you can in any of the methods that we just placed there. Now, Biden has come out with a compromise with the Republicans. Look, all of that is theatrics, right? The idea behind this is Republicans don't want to be, they don't want to see an infrastructure bill which is going to get done that they're not a part of. They want to go back to their districts in 2021, 2022 and say, hey, we did this, but we didn't do the crazy things the Democrats did. That's what they're going to campaign on. We did the stuff. We got infrastructure. So I think that bipartisan part of the bill is going to pass. And remember, however, the bipartisan part of the bill, the deal that Biden has with progressives, is that bill will not pass unless the reconciliation bill, the one that's going to have things like daycare for people, that's going to have all those other pieces, unless that reconciliation passes in the Senate, first of all, Nancy Pelosi is not going to take up the bill in the House. Of course, bills are supposed to start in the House, finish in the Senate. Well, she's making the Senate, she's giving permission to the Senate to do all the work first. And once, that's a problematic chamber. And once all the work is done there, then she'll whip her folks in the House in order to get that bill through. The original is a $6 trillion bill that the Democrats want. I imagine if this $1 trillion bill passed, they'll have to pare it down to between $4 and $5 trillion. But I think we're going to get something big out of the House. I think we're going to get something big out of this. I cannot see. The failure is going to look like a Republican failure if nothing gets done. And Republicans are buying themselves a talking point by having a bipartisan deal that is much less than ideal. In effect, this helps both sides, and it changes the debate in 2022. And what it means is we better get, progressives that is, better get the message tight, because Republicans are going to be able to say, we got infrastructure done with the Democrats, so we are moving forward. And then they're going to bring all the other crazy things, critical race theory and all that crap. We better be ready. And there is an easy way for us to be ready. We'll talk about that on another show. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. Oops, I got some more messages. Let me see if there's anything else. Venmo with the babes. I hear you, girl. Unless everyone has equal access to the ballot, what is here to stop Douglas' view of the good? Look, that is a fight, brothers. That's a fight. We have a lot more to talk about that in future programs. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.